My name is Janet Ailey, and I work with the Oral History Department of the Westport Historical Society. And today we're interviewing longtime resident Esta Burroughs, who is a familiar face both at the Remarkable Bookshop and at the Save the Children offices here in Westport. Esta, where are you from originally?
I was born in Cambridge, Mass.
Cambridge. And what found your way to
While
Westport?
I was living in Westport, I met up with the Kramers, Sidney and Esther, who owned the Remarkable Bookshop. At one time they only rented it, then they bought it. And we were so close and friends, they asked me to work for them, to be the manager. And I couldn't take full time because my husband worked at home and I didn't want to leave him all that time. So I worked there just in the mornings and eventually worked full time. I was there 32 years, when they started and when they closed down. September of 1932, I think I finished working for them. Since then, unfortunately, Mrs. Kramer passed away just a month ago.
She was a very close friend.
Very close. Her death was so sudden. I don't know if she was, I didn't hear that she was even ill for a long time, so I don't know what caused it. But that never came up.
I don't think she was ill for very long. Now, who was your husband that you came here with?
Oh, Bernard Burroughs. He was a commercial artist and illustrator. And he passed away a few years ago. He was a freelance artist, so he was at home a lot working it.
Okay, well,
I had two children, two boys. Miggs was my eldest, and I have a son, Tracy, who lives in West Reading. And
they were both raised here in Westport, public
yes.
schools.
And I have two grandchildren. Miggs has a boy who is a lawyer in Boston, Mass. And Tracy has a girl who's an illustrator in Pennsylvania, and she graduated the University of Pennsylvania, and she stayed in Pennsylvania because of the work she does there was being shown. She does toys and other interesting things for grown-ups, really.
Toys for grown-ups,
Yeah.
I love that. I had an uncle who had all kinds of wind-up toys.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Well, you've been in Westport quite some time.
60 years.
60 years. And in the course of that time, I'm sure you've seen a lot of change.
Yes, when we moved here, we liked the idea it was a small town. Because where I came from, Cambridge was a large city of over 100,000 people, and my husband came from Brookline, Mass., which is also a big city. So we looked forward to the small town and what it could offer. But the town grew so fast, even while you're watching it, it was growing. So most of the people we got friendly moved away from here because it was too crowded for them. Most of them were artists. Al Parker, Bob Fawcett. They found that Westport was too busy for them, so they moved up the country to New Hampshire because any artwork they did could be sold any place they lived. I mean, you have some selling it for you in New York. You didn't have to be there in person. But we liked the town so much, we stayed on. We were one of the few artists that stayed on in Westport. Most of them. So it came to be known as an artist town because there were a lot of commercial artists. That's how we found out about it. We were living in New Jersey during the war and moved to Stamford. And while in Stamford, we read the New York Times and talked about artists living in Westport. So my husband said, well, that's where I want to be. So we called a real estate agent who found this house, as they call it, the fixer-upper, which is perfect, which my husband just loved. What it was a broken-down shack, but it had a nice piece of property where we put a swimming pool in and fixed the house up, so we were there all that time. Gave birth to Tracy there. Tracy's now 60 years old. And we already had Miggs from New Jersey, was born in New Jersey. I don't know if you want to be reminded that you were born in New Jersey.
The same hospital as Jack Nicholson.
Right?
Same New Jersey. New Jersey has the same connotation as Bridgeport does to us somehow. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's too bad.
It's like it's a dirty name or something, I don't know.
I knew a lady who was very snooty who called it Bilgeport, and I just always resented it because it's got lovely, lovely neighborhoods. Golly. Well, what did you think of the schools when you first came here?
Well, they had great PR. Everyone raved about the school, especially Staples. It had a wonderful reputation. That was the other reason why we decided to stay on and not to move away. Yes, the schools had a great reputation, and they lived up to the reputation. The seniors in Staples, more seniors went to college than any other group, and good colleges, Ivy League colleges. So they had a good background.
Called status.
Yeah.
Right. Well, are there any other comments you'd like to make about Westport? Have you seen it grow?
No, I think we're very fortunate to have lived here somehow. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful town. And Connecticut's a great state. I have no fault with any of it.
Well, many people regret the changes that have come in Westport.
Well, that's inevitable. You can't. You have to be pretty naive to think you're going to move into a town and it's not going to change. If you picked the town because it was small and you liked it, that was the beginning of the end. The town's going to change. They call that progress, but you know you can't stop progress. So
it's grass.
As much as you'd like to try, you can't.
Maybe she might remember some of the old stores on Main Street, like Greenberg's or Klein, people that were from mom and pop stores.
Yeah, that's true. We started out with mom and papa stores, which were perfect, and then it ended up a chain taking over like the Gap or Banana Republic, and that changed the climate of this town too. Chain stores, they have to answer to a higher authority.
Yes, and a broader one.
Yeah, so it's not always good, not always what you want. And that went the way the mom and papa stores went. They couldn't afford the rents, and the management took over, so that was the end of the small town that we had. Anyhow, it was a great place. I think it still is a great place to live.
It's a shopper's mecca now, I
Yes.
think, for those stores.
It's a horizontal mall, it really is.
A horizontal.
Esther, can you talk about the remarkable bookstore?
Oh, the remarkable bookshop. I met the Kramers. I was sitting outside. I sent my oldest son these other times to a Sunday school, and the only Sunday school available was in Norwalk. And I was sitting on this bench, crude bench outside, and I met a woman beside me, and she kept sighing and sighing. I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Well, I'm from Brooklyn, and I hate this place." I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I don't know anybody, and I have such great friends in Brooklyn." I said, "Well, Brooklyn's not so far away. Why don't you have a party and invite them so they'll get to know each other?" And she told me her name, and she said, "My husband's in publishing. We moved here to be closer to the publishing world." And his name is Sidney Kramer, and he's a half owner of Bantam Books, which is a large paperback company. So I invited them to dinner, and then she invited me back, and we got to be very close and very friendly. And then she got to be the queen of the parties in Westport. She was a great hostess. Before long, she knew everybody, and everybody knew her, and she was a fabulous cook and a great entertainer. So she finally was happy and stopped crying. But unfortunately, she had a great life here, and she passed away. I didn't even know if she was that sick with this old age. She was 97 when she.
That's right.
But she's a close friend of mine.
So what was it like working in the store? What kind of customers did you have?
We have wonderful customers. Most of them, we would call them now celebrities. They all came into the store, and they all like to read. Especially our biggest celebrity at that time was Paul Newman, because he's since passed away. And he'd come to the front desk where we took the money for the books, and there was nobody there, and he would pound on the desk. I always remind me of that story about some Russian who used to pound on the desk. Paul Newman would stand in front of the counter and pound on the desk to get some attention, pretending to not to want the attention, but getting it just the same. And we had any celebrity. We had Betty Davis. Besides Paul Newman, we had Christopher Plummer. We still have Christopher Plummer. Any celebrity who liked books would come to the Remarkable Bookshop, because it was a very unusual store. I don't know, most people don't know, but the word remarkable, the front part is Kramer spelled backwards.
That was a good one.
That's a secret. Kramer spelled backwards is Remark. And they called it, that was the Remark Corporation that Sidney Kramer started. He had no interest in books at all. He was really a businessman. But even though he didn't like books or ever read them, it was a very successful store. It was a very unique shop. We had lots of wonderful little gifts. And books could be ordered especially because he had a lot of clout. Mr. Kramer had a lot of clout, so we had no problem ordering books that no other bookstore could get.
And famous authors would come in. Can you remember some of the authors that would come in to check on the sales of their books?
Oh yeah, well, one that was since passed away.
Evan Hunter, maybe?
Evan Hunter. Yes, the authors would come in and want their books up front. We had a special place for local authors, and these local authors would check on the status of their books and come in. And also, the Remarkable Bookshop was one of the very few bookstores in the country that had, it was on the list of the bestseller list. So someone would call up from the New York Times and say, which book sold the best this week? And they put that book on the bestseller list, and it would make the New York Times. It was a very contrived thing because it was up to me to decide which book made the bestsellers. So if I had my favorite authors, they would get to be listed on the bestseller list. So that's the way that.
Who were your favorite authors, Esta?
Well, they were classic authors. Some of them weren't even alive anymore. But
Spoke of actor Paul Newman and the theater people. Who were some of the writers that you recall offhand?
yeah, that's Ludlam, Roger.
Oh, he's still
yes,
going,
yes,
Robert Ludlam.
yeah,
He died recently.
Yes, he was a favorite friend of ours, an author. And he was very accommodating. Some of the authors we want to give signings to, didn't want to be bothered, but Roger was very accommodating.
Were there other bookstores in Westport when Remarkable?
Yes, there was a little Professor bookshop. All the bookstores finally went out of business because of Barnes & Noble opening up just about a mile away. The thing about Barnes & Noble they gave a 30% discount on hardcover books, and that attracted loyal customers. I was apologizing. I'm sorry, Esther, but they're giving me a big discount, and you know what that's worth. So we saw the authors going on the other side as it was. And once they got to Barnes & Noble stopped giving the discount.
Yeah, that's the old marketing ploy.
Yeah, that's the old get 'em and grab 'em store.
Right, right. Well, Klein's had a book department when
yes,
they
they had a
first
very
were
good book
going.
department too.
They were, I guess, the first bookstore, weren't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They took the upstairs, and not many people use the upstairs. They took the upstairs for the remainder of their books. But it's not easy to walk upstairs, and the elevator wasn't working, so they lost their customers, so they didn't hang on to that at all.
Whose idea was it to paint the Remarkable Bookstore pink?
I'm sorry, wait.
Who decided to paint the bookstore pink?
That's Mrs. Kramer. She loved Schiaparelli, which is a very famous French designer, and Schiaparelli's favorite color in clothes was pink. It was called Schiaparelli pink, and that's what the bookstore was painted, Schiaparelli pink.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became known as the Pink Bookshop, so people started to meet people downtown, saying, where will I meet you? I'll meet you in front of the Pink Bookshop. And that's how it got to be so popular.
Mm-hmm.
It got to be a great meeting place because there's only one Pink bookstore downtown, and that was it.
Exactly.
We had more outside books, people coming in, and we had coming into the store itself.
Mm-hmm.
We had unique gifts. We had lots of sticky fingers. We lost a lot of gifts to children who were exposed to these gifts and no one to watch over them. But they weren't expensive gifts. We had these little baskets of gifts hanging all through the store. And they weren't always, these baskets of toys were not always visible to me, which was at the front desk. So we lost a lot of stuff, but Mrs. Kramer didn't want to pursue the fact that these things were being stolen. She'd say they were borrowed. We had a letter from a customer who said she found out that her son had stolen a toy from the Remarkable, and she said, I think it cost 50 cents, so here's the 50 cents to pay for the toy my son borrowed. So We hung the 50 cents in a little plastic bag at the front desk with her letter apologizing for her son's being a thief, she said. She felt terrible. She said, my family's never did things like that. I have to apologize for my son. Well, would you believe the 50 cents was stolen?
Oh, gosh.
With her letter. So, we got a big kick out of that.
You had a rather well-known resident cat too, didn't
Yes,
you?
and we had a contest to name the cat. We had a cat that used to sit in with all the stuffed toys. Sometimes the customers come over to touch the stuffed toys, and the cat would be Homer. We gave her the prize for
Homer.
Homer, we named it Homer.
Heathcliff.
She got $25 gift certificate from the Remarkable Bookshop, and we had Homer.
Wasn't it Heathcliff, I think?
Heathcliff?
Heathcliff.
Heathcliff or Homer?
We had a cat named Homer. The
Oh.
Remarkables cat was
Oh, I'm
Heathcliff.
sorry. Good thing I ever makes along to get me
Well,
straight.
they're both literary.
That's
of
right. Yeah, that's right.
We had a cat named
Yeah, we had a cat named Homer.
Oh, okay. One of us had a cat named Homer. Remarkable had Heathcliff. Makes us right, yes.
Was he a wayward cat? Did he travel, Homer?
Yeah. No,
But he's a great favorite with the customers. They love to pet the fake cats and have the real cat jump up on him. He always screams from the back of the store. Well, he used to sit in the bay window of the back of the store with all the stuffed animals. So the customer would come in and look at the stuffed animals, and she sees something moving. She wasn't sure. And, I wouldn't know which one the Homer or Heathcliff, I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
He was a real one. Yeah. Well, did you use the beach much when you were here, or you had your pool, I guess?
We built a swimming pool, which is a beautiful pool, and a wonderful statuaries we got from Stanford Repping.
Oh,
My
that's a
husband
great
took care,
place.
since he worked at home, he took care of the pool, which was really beautiful. So we didn't use the beach at all. And we had our own swimming pool, and none of the neighbors knew about it. It was in the back of the house, and we had only a small piece of property, but the pool took up most of the property. The landscaping was beautiful. It made a couple of magazines, like Pool Magazine or something.
That would be appropriate.
Oh, and when they made the movie The Swimmer in Westport,
Oh, yeah, Brett
they
Lancaster.
auditioned our pool for the Swimmer movie, but it didn't get in.
Oh.
That's when Brett
Reject.
Lancaster played the movie. It was based on a short story in the New Yorker magazine called The Swimmer. Well, this man, which Brett Lancaster played, would swim across New England practically by using backyard
Yeah.
pools. He'd go from one pool to another by the time he got from, let's say, Westport to Swampscott, I don't know where. That was a legend that he used all the pools to get.
Who produced that? Do you remember?
Hmm?
Who produced that?
Yeah, so someone moved to Westport and took
Mhm.
over one of the beautiful houses we had in Westport. I forgot his name right now. Do you remember
Yeah.
who produced that?
No, it was a couple, but was it a couple that
Yeah, the
produced it in
couple in the
Westport?
theater
but-
business.
But it was a national movie. And then, and I remember my father taking me to the Westport train station when The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit was being filmed, and we got to watch Gregory Peck get on and off the train about 180 times. That's all he did. Just get off the train, get on the train, get off the train, get
To
on.
do it properly.
Yeah, but I was, just a kid. It was amazing to see a movie being made.
My father used to run and catch it, much to my mother's sadness. He never fell, thank heaven, but there were a lot of commuters who would just run alongside, hike up like the trolleys in New Haven or something. Yeah.
They always loved that scene of getting to the long shows with that long walkway with the elm trees.
Oh,
When
yes.
eventually there was a blight with the elm trees, was attacked with this blight with the leaves weren't showing up, so they couldn't use that scene very much because the whole walk was in disrepair. But Westport was figured a lot in a lot of movies, just for the background itself.
And we had the theater people and movie
Yeah.
people here too.
A lot at the beginning, we
Touch
did,
it.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the town bought it. It was offered to the town for like 1 million plus, and the town people didn't want to spend the money. So this man who's since died lived in Westport, Jules something or other. He went to town hall and fought for the town to buy this piece of property. He said, if you let this pass without buying it, you'll make the biggest mistake. He said, this has everything: golf, tennis, the water, boating, a restaurant. What else do you want for a town for $1 million? Now you couldn't even buy it you couldn't even touch it at $1 million. So he went to town hall and he talked to people and made them change their minds, so the town bought Longshore, which has been a great asset with them.
Oh, gosh.
And when this man got up to speak, he said, "You let the town, let another town take over for you, something that should belong to you, you know. Why would you want strangers coming into Westport when you get the town here?" So Westport bought the town, bought the Longshore. You couldn't get it at that price today, of course, but they only paid a little bit of $1.1 million or something like that.
Well, I'm sure it had a funny history. I guess it was a private estate in the
Yes,
beginning.
it was a private estate. It had wonderful parties. People would come up by train to these parties and we met at this train station with a chauffeur and brought lots of, it was like the early 20s parties, really.
Scott Fitzgerald time.
Yeah,
Yes.
Babe Ruth came, played
Mhm.
golf there.
Oh, that's right.
Esther, can you talk about your artist friends?
I'm not having trouble hearing from him.
Yes, he'd like you to speak about some of your friends who are artists or have been that you and Bernie knew.
Like Tracy Sugarman was the first, wasn't he the first artist you met? We met when you moved to
Yeah,
Westport?
we met, oh yeah, Tracy Sugarman, who's now the Grand Marshal of a parade that doesn't exist, but Tracy, my husband was standing at the station in New York. He had to go in to deliver some artwork, and he met this man and said to him, do you live in Westport? And my husband said, yes, I've been living there a few years. He said, well, we're going to move there, my wife and I, because I got some work, a lot of work done from town. And my husband said, well, you're going to love it. It's a wonderful place, a great place to bring up your children. So Tracy moved to Westport. We became very close friends with him and his first wife, June Sugarman. Tracy is incredible. It's hard to believe he's 89 years old. He's a perennial sophomore, really. Did you know he's 89?
He's very active with civil
Yeah.
rights, I know.
And
He marched
He's a
with
wonderful
the-
person. It's hard to believe someone's so nice. You usually have to find fault with somebody. You can try very hard. I can't find anything fault with Tracy.
No, I
Sugarman.
can't either.
and there
And at
was,
that time, we met the Sugarmans. I was very pregnant with my second child, and I think Tracy says, I said it, I'm going to name them Tracy, no matter if it's a boy or a girl. So I had a boy, and I named him Tracy. But my son, Tracy, wasn't too happy with the name because he thought it was a girl's name. We'd be at a grocery store, and someone yelled, Tracy, and a little girl would be running up, yes, Mommy, and my son, Tracy, says, you see, this is not a boy's name. But he got to live with it. Because I said there was Tracy Sugarman. There's also a famous Tracy Kidder, a very famous author and a wonderful writer named Tracy Kidder, Tracy Sugarman. So I have to keep finding out all these male Tracys to placate my son Tracy, who thought it was the girl's name. Maybe there are more girls named Tracy than boys, but still.
Well, a lot of girls are named what were
Yeah,
just
that is true.
exclusively male names, yeah.
and then I remember at the pool visitor, was it Dick Brown, the guy who did Hagar the Horrible?
Oh,
He used
yeah.
to come to visit.
Yeah,
Dick Brown, Eric von Schmidt was a friend.
Joan, yeah. We were very friends with the cartoonists in town because one of our closest friends was a cartoonist, and he invited us to all the cartoonist parties. They gave wonderful parties.
And who was that?
Famous Schwartz, Lou Schwartz.
Oh.
And there's a famous band leader in New Jersey that offered his house to the cartoonist for the weekend. I can't remember the famous band leader now. He's so famous I can't even remember him. And we met all the cartoons and became friends. Well, my husband, being an artist, could fake a cartoon if he had to show that he belonged to the Cartoonist Society, and never mind to the Artist Society. So we got this wonderful weekend parties, and all you had to submit was a cartoon that you drew. When it came to my husband, he faked it. He faked a cartoon, but he was not a
He
cartoonist.
was not a cartoonist.
But we knew all the cartoonists.
Well, there were several waves. I know my mom was a New Yorker cartoonist in
Yeah.
the early 20s
Oh, yeah.
when it first was established, and she
That
got
is- that's
into
not easy to
an
be a
encounter
cartoonist,
with
right?
Harold Ross, and
That's
you didn't
much
do
harder
that.
to be a
Oh, really?
cartoonist than it is to be a regular artist. It's not easy.
So what kind of art did your husband do?
He was a men's fashion artist and illustrator. He did work for, my mind's going, I can see it
No,
now.
it's
We
not.
did Van Heusen and BVD and McGregor, all the men's brands from the 50s and 60s. So he would portray men wearing pajamas or suits or in different, but all painted, watercolor renderings of these, because photography hadn't come into its own yet.
Has that ever been in an exhibit? I think that could be a wonderful.
I know, it could. We have a lot of his original artwork. It's phenomenal artwork.
Tony and Nina Marino also.
Yeah.
Fashion artists, so to speak.
But I remember famous artists coming. I didn't know they were famous then, but Artie Gramatke, and Howard Muntz is still here, and people would come to the house.
Just
Chat.
routine friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Garrett Price and Perry
Yeah,
Barlow,
Garrett
who had
Price,
all
yeah.
gone to art school in Chicago with my
Yeah.
friends. That group of people.
Yeah, Muntz was one of the early ones that
Mhm.
the people remember. You would think he was over 100 years old. He's close to that, but more of the elderly artists remember Howard. So he's one of the first commercial artists around that people recognized. Besides, he is, I'm never going to use a past tense with Howard. He is the sweetest guy.
He certainly is.
Yes.
Yeah.
You call on him for anything. As busy
Yes.
as he is, he always has time for everybody. And
He and Tracy and then
Tracy.
Alan Raymond.
And
who
Alan
were
Raymond, yeah.
interviewed. Mhm.
yeah,
All in their different
in
suits.
different ways, but they're nice
Mhm.
guys.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have to be an artist first and then you're a nice guy, or you're a nice guy and then you get to be an artist. I don't know how it works that way. But they're all great people.
Do you have any stories about Howard?
I'm, s-
Do you remember any particular stories about Howard?
oh gosh, no, I'm sorry. I'm not been at this, my memory's gone, so I can't help you there. Do you remember anything growing up about any of the artists that were dead?
No, well, I remember there was an Westport Artist Club, which is the precursor to now the Art Center, way back when, and my father was the president for a while. But they had these outrageous costume parties, I guess, and the artists would spend weeks
Oh, at the Western Field Club. we met.
yeah, creating these elaborate costumes. So as a kid, I watched in wonder as my father created these giant headpieces. I mean, they look like people from outer space, or weird, I don't even know how to describe them, but just very elaborate costumes. And all the artists, it was they all tried to outdo one another. So there was that was more of a social club. The arts community here, the art center is a wonderful gallery space and performance
Yes,
space.
yeah, we used to have to bring your own bottle, and you bring it to a bar that they made up there, and put your name on your bottle that you want to drink from, usually vodka. We went up to the bar to get our drink of our vodka, and we saw a couple walking away with our vodka under their arm. Where were they going? They were going home. Well, I couldn't dare say, you have my bottle of vodka under your arm. So I guess they forgot who the bottle belonged to. They all were named on the front, so when your bartender would know who to ask for. I guess there's a little larceny in every one of us, I suppose.
I will quote that. That's a good one. There's a little larceny in most of us. Oh, golly. Well, have you any other comments or questions? Yes. Some memories? More
No,
memories?
my
or-
memory's really short. Listen, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. I don't know what to.
I'm in your club. Yes.
If I thought I wasn't told it was going to be important later on, I would have paid more attention to what I saw, what was around me. But I didn't think it was going to be oral history. I
Recording.
didn't think there was going to
Yes.
be any history. So I should have taken notes at that time. I didn't take any notes. And to depend on my memory was a mistake, because that's the first thing that goes, your memory, and the second is your legs. So.
And the hips. The philosophical observation.
Well, thank you very much, Esta.
I'm sorry, I'm not more help than that.
You've
That's
been
been
wonderful
lovely, thank
help.
you.
And if you think of,
Look at Tracy
I
Sugar
know.
making Grand Marshal parade that they're going to have anyhow.
maybe you could be next year.
I think so.
Yeah.
It should be, it should be.
Yeah.
He's perfect for it.
I don't know if we've had a female Grand Marshal. I'm not a fighter about things, but
Yeah.
it would be
You
interesting.
have to be a veteran. There's plenty. It must be female veterans.
Oh, nurses. we
Yeah, he has a
have-
history of war, a background of being part of an activist in the war. He has good war stories. He's written a couple of books
This is
about
Tracy Sugarman.
Yeah, Tracy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's perfect for that job. It must have been frustrating to cancel that parade. So many young kids were looking forward to the
I
parade.
felt sorry for the Little League kids, you know, all rooting and
Yeah.
see them slumping home back to their cars.
I have one more question here.
Esther, what is your impression of Westport today?
Well, it doesn't exist, really. The Westport today is just another little town in a very busy state. And they don't have time for memories, really. It's not the same. What we got there, we moved there 60 years ago, was a small town, which is what we wanted. But after that, it got to be swallowed up, really, to a big city, to the chains, which took over the Gap, the Republic, the Republic, which are owned by the same company, as it were. It's not the same, but we didn't protest. We loved the town so much we stayed on, but as I said earlier, most of the artists that we were friendly with all moved away. Which was all our dear friends moved up north. They moved to up to Vermont. They rode as far away as they could to get away from what they thought was too busy. Westport got to be too busy for them. And it lost its small town image that it had.
Yeah.
But my husband was crazy about this town, and nothing's going to make him move. So we stayed on. And
Well, your memories are keeping track of the history of Westport, so that's good to have. I remember Main Street when it was mom and pop stores, and
Yes.
there were actual food stores.
You can't call them mom
Remember
and pop
the food
stores anymore.
stores there?
Yeah, they don't have mom and pop stores anymore. They were wonderful. And when you walked into these stores, they all knew your name. And I remember Nat Greenberg had this wonderful store, and newcomers come to town would buy a mailbox because they wanted to know they lived here. And you could walk into Nat Greenberg's and say, I want a mailbox, and say, how much is it? And he'd say, take it, take it. When you give enough money, you can pay me. He let them people, because he said, they're going to be members of this town, they're going to pay me eventually, he said, so why not let them have it now if they don't have the money? So you got a free mailbox and went to Greenberg's department store when you first moved here, which I thought was very clever of him. He made you feel obligated in a very nice way, so you're sure to go back to his shop again to buy something. And he made contact with people that got to be chatty with them and got to know them, so he could call them by their names when they walked in the store. Nat Greenberg was a wonderful person. He tried very hard to keep it a small town, but it escaped him completely. And Lee Greenberg is surviving him, and she owns half of Westport, if not all of it, by now. Very, very, very successful businesswoman.
There was a Mr. Violet who also
Yes.
owned the better part of
The
Westport.
Violet Lane is named after him.
Right.
It's a charming little street.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful to
Well,
have
that
you.
was then, and this is now, and it's all different somehow.
Well, you know, if you have further thoughts about memories and things, we can always continue
Yeah, this should.
talking with you, because it's very hard to amass them all at once. But thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.